MongoDB is what's known as a non-relational database. This is a fancy way of saying that the data structures used to save information in the database can be more flexible. Well, more flexible than what? Well, than a relational database. So in relational databases, you have tables, columns, and rows. That's it. That's what you're working with. If you want to build a complex data structure using those three items, you need to create multiple tables and in some cases tables or field entries to link those tables. Linking information across tables is where the term relational comes from. Let's say you have 4 distinct categories: employees' personal information, employees' payroll invoices, company's current projects, and company's equipment for loaning. It makes sense to make 4 separate tables. You have to make sure to link IDs across tables where it makes sense, or create new tables entirely to keep track of relations where it makes sense. Like a one-to-one relationship, where one employee is associated with one payroll invoice. So you might have an employee ID field in the payroll invoices table. Or maybe a one-to-many relationship, where one employee can have multiple pieces of equipment on loan, and that equipment is only associated with that one employee, so you need an employee ID field in the equipment many-to-many relationships. You need to create a whole other table just to keep track of an employee's current projects, because multiple employees can have multiple current projects underway and know a particular employee's role in that project, and you'd want to know particular information about that. All of this on one server. And imagine replicating all of this type needs to be created. A type that doesn't have authorization for equipment loans. With relational databases, you can't have empty entries because schemas are rigid or locked. What if an employee needs to add that document, an employee ID needs to employee table? You can handle that. Then go back into every other table and delete all references to an existing ID. Well, delete. Why not just have one place for all of this information per employee? If we just reconfigure the information to look like this, it looks a lot like JSON. We have an easier, simpler, more manageable database structure. One employee table or collection that holds all employees and their relevant information in clean, organized nests. And what if an employee is not authorized to have equipment loans, but they're still an employee? Well, we can create a document or record that doesn't have to have an equipment loans property. Not every entry has to conform to one model or schema. This is what non-relational databases help us do. This is what MongoDB is. Store data in a database that accepts information where it makes more sense to configure it in nests, and that information doesn't have to be present in every document or record, where the rigidity of tables, rows, and columns doesn't make sense or isn't needed to solve our problem. So how does this information get stored? Information is structured into 3 segments. You got your database, you got your collection of tables, and you have your documents or your records. Multiple documents create a collection, multiple collections create a database. MongoDB works in clusters in the cloud, and all of this is replicated over many servers, with one of those servers being the primary. Many copies of your information provides for redundancy and in some cases more speed. Remember though, non-relational databases aren't better than relational databases. It depends on your use case. Different strokes for different folks.